today, I want you to see it in context of everything else, and I want you to get the whole story. So I'm going to do the best I can to give you that. I'm going to give you a little bit of history, and then we're going to move on and we're going to make it applicable to our lives, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I will completely butcher verse 1, and I may lose you because there's lots of names in it. We're not ever going to focus on those names again, okay? So please try to stay with me. Don't just go, oh, Old Testament names. No, okay? Try to stay with me. I promise I'll bring it back around. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 20 is what we're going to read, okay? It's on the screen. Starting with verse 1, there was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeremiah, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. We're done with that. Okay? Don't try to figure out the lineage. Don't trace it back. Forget about it. This is what we're going to focus on. He had 2 wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. So to be barren meant to be really nobody. Hannah got those looks that I got in Walmart. She got them every day. She got the look of pity. She got the look of judgment, and that was Hannah's world. Hannah could not conceive a child. God had closed her womb, and we'll talk about that more later. Hannah could not conceive a child. She could not bear a child. And so she was basically a nobody in that society. It was not possible for her to provide a son. And she was good for nothing. You ever feel that way? So Hannah was barren, and Hannah was taunted, and Hannah was faithful. Scripture very clearly says that God closed Hannah's womb, that He had a purpose, that He had a plan, that He had something in mind to use her for. She would have had every reason to be angry. She would have had every reason to be bitter. She would have had every reason to run from Him, to ignore Him, to not talk to Him, to say bad things about Him, because God had done this to her. God had made her this way. God had made her unable to have children. But Hannah runs to God. Hannah goes to God for her comfort. Hannah seeks God as the source of her strength. Hannah depends on God. Hannah talks to God. Hannah even has the courage, the faith to say, give me a son. Earlier I said Hannah is faithful. Now when I apply it to us, I want to say God is faithful. You're not. He had a plan bigger for Hannah than she could even fathom. You know, she asked for a son. He gave her Samuel, the last and greatest judge in Israel, the man who anointed Saul and David, the man who helped change Israel into a monarchy. Samuel. God honored her. God was faithful to her. Even if Hannah had not been faithful, God is still faithful. God is faithful to us the way that He was faithful to Abraham and Sarah when they came up with the cockamamie plan to take it in their own hand. He was still faithful to them. God is faithful the way He was faithful to Ruth and Naomi to give them such a precious relationship. He's faithful the way He was faithful to the prostitute Rahab to spare her life and the lives of her family for helping God's people. And we can look through Scripture time after time after time again and see how God is faithful to us, even when we are not. And the truth is, Hannah is cool, and she's a neat lady, and we can really put her up on a pedestal and celebrate Hannah today, and she did everything right. But the coolest part about this story is where God came in. And God came in when she's sitting there outside the temple, muttering to the point that Eli thinks she's drunk, and He came in and He gave her what she asked for in her prayer. And the truth is this, even if He had not, God is still faithful. Even if He hadn't answered her prayer, He's still faithful. Even if she had remained barren till the day they put her in the ground, God is still faithful. And today, look at your life and find out where it's barren and see if He's been faithful to you. sit there with a decision to be made. You sit there with a burden. You sit there with anguish and grief. You sit there with bitterness of soul, is the way the scripture put it. Is God so faithful? I'll bet he is.